Good afternoon, everyone. Jeff Mueller, Kenmore East class of 1979 for the Bulldog History Channel. And I'm here with Mr. Jeff Gemmer, who is one of our distinguished alums and honored coaches from over the years. How you doing, Jeff?
Real good, thank you.
All right, great to see you. Well, the first question that we typically kick off with is tell us a little bit about yourself. Your age, where you reside, maybe the years that you graduated at Kenmore East. I know you were inducted into our Hall of Distinction. If you remember any of those dates, go right ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. Okay, Jeff Gemmer here. I was born December 13th, 1948 at Millard Gates, where my wife eventually worked for many years. In an elevator, never quite made it to the birthing room. My mom, by a resident, I was supposed to be a New Year's baby, but I wanted to get in the world early, so I came in a couple of weeks early. Unfortunately, because of that, I would normally get a combination birthday Christmas present growing up. It wasn't until I was in my 20s and was married before I got separate gifts.
So the timing was pretty critical there. I mean, it sort of blended those two together on you, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy interesting, right? And I guess it probably turned into a different kind of tax deduction, maybe for mom and dad,
Exactly.
based on the year that you fell into, right?
They could have used it too, with 4 kids.
Well, I mean, how about maybe just sort of, right into the next one, maybe a little bit about your family background, where you grew up, siblings, what your parents did, maybe a little bit about what it was like growing up in the Gemmer household.
Sure. I was born from the hospital. We lived at 484 Leroy, across from School 61, in my grandma's back apartment. She was Adeline Webster, French Canadian, and married my grandfather, Hercules Newton Webster. Quite a title. He was a projectionist at the Century Theater. We got to see all the movies early, and it was a great time. We used to go to School 61 to play across the street at Bailey and Kensington, or Kensington and Leroy, excuse me, and we'd swam at the pool around the corner near Grider Street, and my grandma would eventually go to future ECMC, when she got older. She lived with us for a long time.
Well, that's interesting that you mentioned that he was a projectionist, because my wife Lisa, her grandfather was a projectionist and ended up the head of the projectionist union for Western New York. So he might have been a contemporary, with them. And as a result, we've got a big love for the theater and big bags of popcorn and everything. So that's fantastic. So now that's sort of the beginning. What led you to Kenmore East? How did you end up maybe getting into the district and then end up attending Kenmore East? Because I know you graduated in the 60s.
We moved into Dalton Drive off the Boulevard and went to Trinity Methodist right on the Boulevard, where my wife and I got married on a 95-degree day and with no air conditioning. But across the street from me lived Nancy Livingston, the 67 head of the cheerleaders. And from there, we outgrew that house and moved to Green Acres in Lynbrook, which leads right up to the front door of Kenmore East. There were 52 kids on our block, one block. The Stevens family, Chuck Fancourt, a good friend of mine. The twins lived 2 doors away, Paul and Tommy Moore.
Right.
And Linda Dominica moved into the area, who eventually married Tom Blameyer, who lived over on Parker. And father worked at RCA Victor, and they moved to Atlanta. And Tommy and Bobby worked for his dad down there. Tommy and Steve Trusso ended up going to Wyoming long before Josh Allen did, pair up as a quarterback and receiver out there. Wow. And they're both in the Kenmore East Hall of Fame.
That's great. And so you really lived in the shadow of the school, and sounds like a good portion of the neighborhood was actually walking down the street and heading to Kenmore East as well with you. Now, do you remember at the time, like who some of the the principal and the assistant principal was back then? Does that hit the top of your mind, or?
Oh yeah, Mr. Witzig, Al Witzig was the principal. Alan McGamwell was the vice principal in charge of discipline. My older brother, a little bit of a troublemaker, was a daily friend of Mr. McGamwell's office. He had his own chair there. He was so often. I kind of thought that, if I'm going to go the student athlete route, I don't want to follow his footsteps. So I tried to stay as true as possible. I did stray a bit when I got to college, but my father always told me that, you can be an athlete or you can be a bum, take your choice.
Right, right.
So
and you obviously took the athlete route. And it's interesting that you mention Al Witzig and also your brother. People used to tease me. They used to say I had season tickets to the principal's office. And what I would do is I'd finish my work early and then I'd start sort of raising, HECK. And then they'd say, set them down there so the rest of the class could move forward. So now, again, this is the 60s, right? This is like the middle to later 60s. And I know the classes were bigger back then. But what was it the atmosphere like at the school? What was it like hanging with the kids, or the kind of things that you did at the school, and what was the environment like at the school?
I was a jock, so and in varsity club, we had varsity club gym for an hour and a half, which included our lunch. So we could play for an hour and 15 minutes sometimes, get a quick shower and get some lunch in 5 minutes, which was a great thing. We had our own shirts, we had meetings, varsity club meetings. We served for the wrestling team to keep people off the mats. We sat in our leather sweaters on the corners and kept people off the mats, kept a little bit of control, and we were asked to do that. So we had a little bit of duty there. I was in the mixed chorus, which I loved. Originally just to meet chicks, which was great, and I met a lot of them. We got out of school to go to Erie County concerts. Mrs. Hicks never had bases before, so 10 or 12 of us on the football team got in the chorus and got out of school on occasion, met some girls. My buddy ended up dating one for years, okay? I met my wife, Judy Devine, of many Devine family members who attended Kenmore East, in a math class when I was a sophomore. And we pretty much went to a sorority formal, which my girlfriend now did the hair for, of all of them, for all the Iota girls, which was one of the sororities at the time. I was in Knights, which was one of the fraternities there, which I guess have gone, Dunnigan told me they've gone to colors since then. But we had Knights, we had Alpha Gamma Phi, Zeta Phi,
Yeah, and I don't hear people talk about fraternities and sororities much at the high school level. You hear it talked about a lot at the college level, right? Yeah. But we actually had it at that time. There was, a very active, fraternity kind of a scene at Kenmore East. That's great. That's great. Well, how about the summers? What were the summers like for you? Was it again more sports? Did you have to work to get a couple of spending dollars on your side of the table, or what were the summers like?
Summers for me were 3 days a week captain's practices at Kenmore East, which consisted of running and drills, and I wish we had weightlifting, but at the time it wasn't in vogue. I did it on my own because I knew I had to get bigger and to play college football. But 3 days a week, I went to summer school in the morning and came home quickly, got something to eat, went to practice about 3 o'clock. We went till almost dinner time, some drills, and then we'd end up playing flag football, which turned out to be a little rougher than flag.
Yeah, I can imagine flag football back in the middle 60s.
You almost had to tackle first and then grab the flag.
The flag.
Yeah, but there was many guys I looked up to, who would lead us, and even before our years, You know, George Constantino, Jeff Oakers, whose father taught at the school and was the first Kenmore race football coach before Sparky Adams. Jeff Oakers, George Constantino, Gary Dean, whole bunch of them.
Yeah, and I remember Mr. Olkers. I think he was a teacher when I was there in my era, you know, closer to the 80s.
Right, and his son Jeff Oakers, class
Wow.
of '80, class of '64.
That's great. That's great. And this is a fun one usually, and if there's not a good answer to it, that's all right. But we throw some of these in just for fun. But is there one thing you could tell us that most people might not know about you? Now, I thought what you sort of almost led with one, saying that you've got a bass voice and you've got a singing voice, so you were actually active in the choir. And I've heard about a lot of the sports accomplishments, but never knew that you sang and did that. But is there any one thing that you would say, perhaps, that most people might not know about you? Or?
Well, in chorus, I sang a solo, and Amen with me singing the lead, and the rest of the chorus did the Amen in the background. And I was on crutches at the time at Christmas from a basketball injury. I incurred at the Belmont Y because I didn't play much on the basketball team. So Saturday afternoons were spent playing at the Belmont Y. So Dr. Rogers, whose son Pat graduated with me, suggested, and I got a Oxford Cordovan with a built-up forefoot so that I wouldn't, so it would heal my ankle quicker after I got out of the cast that I was in for a while. Yeah.
Now, did you have a favorite class or teacher, or maybe even a least favorite one, you know, just from the classes and the things that you did on the academic side?
The obvious choice for me would be Sparky Adams. You know, he led the way. He gave me a chance to play football. In those days, we had 100 kids go out for football. 40 made the team and got uniforms. Now at 5'6", 160 pounds, how was I going to make the team? You had to make an impression. First day of camp, I started a fight. If nothing else, that sticks out in the coach's mind that this kid wants to play.
Yeah.
And I spent my whole career trying to live up to that. Too small, too slow, but maybe had a little bit of heart.
Yeah, yeah. And how many people? Doug Flutie, just right here in Buffalo, how many people have said that? You know, I mean, even Alan coming from a sort of unknown college, and I think he said put in 1,000+ letters trying to get noticed.
Right.
And where we are today.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. Now here's another good one, which you know, you've got perspective going back to the 60s. How do you think things have changed over the years? Say that maybe the student population, how are things maybe today? I mean, even generally that you see versus how it was back then.
Well, back then it was real strict, and I lived by the code of, you know, doing things right. Did I always do them? No. Did I have a lot of detention? Not at all. I knew that if I had detention, I couldn't go to practice. And I was playing football, basketball, ran track after baseball. I got cut from baseball my junior year, but went immediately to track thinking, well, this has got to help me for the future. All right. And the 67 baseball team went on and won the NFL championship that year with Buddy Witkowski, Jim Campus, who was a great friend of mine who used to come and stay with me for a couple of weeks when he came back for reunions from the Philippines. Wow. And he had a lot of relatives around here. Campus, Bill Stewart, Wayne Stewart, Gary Schmidt, Phil Bonnell, all these guys I still see at reunions. And, you know, they're all Green Acres guys for the most part.
And legendary names in the history of Kenmore East.
Yeah, a lot of Hall of Famers, you know.
Yeah,
and Hall of Famers that should be in, who I've tried to bring in, Jack Stevens, the quarterback, who still has passing records, passing to Jim Krieg, who is in the Hall of Fame, who played for Sonny Six Killer at Washington and played for the Denver Broncos for a few years and received passes from the Broncos quarterback and lived with Lyle Alzado, legendary athlete.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately, Jim and Lyle both passed from brain cancer, which in the steroid era could have been part of that, unfortunately.
Could have been related to that. Now, I mean, again, don't need to get deep on this, but a lot of technologies come into play. What do you think of that and the impact on students? Good, bad? Any perspective on that at all, Jeff? Or?
I think it's, technology is great if you know how to use it. Guys my age or people my age have a hard time with it, but we can ask, the younger players, younger relatives to help us through it. And I think it's real important to know. I struggle with it, both computer-wise and phone-wise, but I have younger ones who are more than willing to help me.
That's great.
So.
Now, I know you went on to coach at other places, but you're now back coaching at Kenmore East and helping with Kenmore East. Can we ask what's your style, or maybe what's your leadership style? Because it was interesting. I pulled up, and I do have to say it because we're on tape here. I was 8 minutes early, but you looked at me and said, "Mueller, you're late. Take a lap." And I don't know how many times I've heard that from a coach. I played hockey, so it was usually up and down on the rink.
Right.
They'd work you.
Right.
But you're late. Take a lap. What was your leadership style? What was it? What's it like with the kids out there?
Well, with my size and stature, I really had to come on hard when I first started teaching. I was 23 years old, and I taught health to 18-year-olds. I was 2 weeks married, got married, and started teaching 2 weeks later with a knee injury. So I'm on crutches teaching health and phys ed, third floor to basement. Do I wear a suit? Do I wear a sweatsuit?
Yeah.
I struggle with that.
Because there's logistics there just to
right.
navigate. Yeah.
The long hair days, I've got pictures. I tried to go with the style trends then with longer hair, but I was in the Air National Guard because I flunked out of Brockport. So I did a year active of basic training and tech school in Denver, where I got in the best shape of my life running. I won the mile of my flight and was rewarded with tremendous duty at night, running around the track with the guys who had to lose weight, and then playing full court basketball with them while other guys were in the dorms scrubbing with toothbrushes. So I felt, okay, I'm going to come back in shape, and I played semi-pro that year.
Wow.
And then the year after I graduated, I did, worked, that semester before, came back, got 2 A's at Niagara Community, got back in a year later.
That's great. So then now we've really sort of transitioned to it. Tell us a little bit about your path and that your career took after Kenmore East, right?
Okay.
Because you're now on to some of your activities in college, and then you did end up coaching quite a bit post Kenmore East. You could tell us a little bit about that.
Went to Brockport, played freshman football, played as a sophomore in the varsity. Didn't play much, but I paid my dues. We had the dirt field house where we had 2 weeks of spring football in February, if that's considered spring football. But dirt field house is a little rough.
I'd say winter, but I guess spring.
We inhaled a lot of dust, but we got a lot done. Our coach, Coach DiAugustino, who actually played with Coach Adams at Brockport. So they both helped me out quite a bit. But I flunked out. Used to call my roommates to see how we did when I was at basic training in San Antonio. And they would let me know about the games. And the one that stood out, I guess, was the Bad loss to Cortland 73-6, and that 5 guys were hurt and out of the game by halftime, and coaches were begging people to play different positions from their own.
Right.
A quarterback playing guard, and that kind of thing. But Brockport was enjoyable football. Today, it's huge. They've gone to the playoffs now. We look at the sidelines, so we had 8 or 10 sets of parents. Now they fill the stands. Our group, the Gray Eagles, goes down for homecoming and gets together. Probably 4 or 5 times a year after that. We have hats, we have shirts, we get together at the games, take pictures.
You really broke the new snow. I mean, you guys, busted down the branches and created the path that now has become a very significant program, as you're saying, which is great. No, that's great. Well, here's another one. Again, having the perspective and having going through, all the incredible things that you're talking to. What advice would, and this has sort of got two sides to it. What advice might you give to students who are getting ready to start Kenmore East, and then maybe also those that are perhaps getting ready to graduate and move on to the next step or the next phase of what they're looking at in their career?
Okay. If you're going into high school, get involved. You know, between my involvement and my teaching involvement, the best thing you can do if you want to make friends and participate in school and not be on the 2:30 club where you run out the door for the bus or go home. Some people are forced to work, but if you can get in activities, I was lucky that my parents said, you don't have to work till senior year, you know, or when you're done, you know, but, you know, get involved. You know, I got involved in everything, sports, chorus, varsity club, anything I could, I got involved with.
And
student government, you know.
Yeah, that's going to create just a great, well-rounded experience, right? You know, don't sit in the corner and just show up for math.
Yeah.
Right. Get into the clubs, get into the activities. That's fantastic. Would you have a fondest memory or maybe a greatest achievement from Kenmore East? Anything like that come to mind at all, or?
Receiving letters from the sports and have you
Varsity
talked
letters.
about.
Yeah.
That was great. Singing a solo in the chorus. I didn't realize it at the time, but it struck me pretty good. Maybe I can sing, you know, and I've been singing ever since. You know, singing and dancing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, and I sing a little bit maybe at church or something. I almost can't imagine singing a solo.
Yeah.
Just me up in front of everybody. That's a big accomplishment, in my opinion.
Yeah, to me it was you know, a little bit of standing up for myself, and you know, I can do this. As a teacher, I'm going to have to be in front of people all the time, and that brought out my personality when I was very shy in junior high. Carrying a bookcase, I was a book nerd. You know, I didn't discover girls till I was about 17. I was so focused on sports.
Now, can you tell me, these couple get a little, I mean, I don't want to say deep, but I mean, I guess you could say, this one's, how would you like to be remembered? Is there a particular way, your leadership style, you've mentioned, you know, being tough as an underdog and really, you know, working it hard because, you know, people said maybe he's too short or maybe he isn't heavy enough to play the position. How might you like to be remembered?
Tough but fair, I guess, more than anything. Coach Adams coached us from starter to the last man on the roster, all the same. And, you know, if I have something to be remembered for, it would be that.
Yeah, and you know what? And we can pause for a second there because I really appreciate that. We talked before we even started the interview here that there's so many people that we'd love to talk to for the channel, and some of them we just can't, right? And to hear the incredible things you say about, you know, legendary Sparky Adams and the impact he had on you and how you carried that, you know, into your style and what you did is wonderful, and very much why we started the channel, so we can capture these stories and hear them from the people that lived it when they were there. So really, this is where we've made it right to our last question, and this is another fun one, and I think, and I have the funny feeling I know where this is going to come from your perspective. In closing, we usually ask, what does it mean to be a bulldog, and what are your thoughts on the meaning of bulldog spirit? So, you know, is it the grit? Is it the determination? What when we talk about being a bulldog, I mean, I hear many of the young graduates say, it's just different here, and I'm going to carry something with me everywhere I go. So any thoughts on what it means to be a bulldog, or your thoughts on what bulldog spirit is?
First of all, the motto, once a bulldog, always a bulldog. You've got grit, you've got determination, you want to play hard, you want to study hard, you want to do everything you can to make yourself successful in life, you know, in marriage, in a job, and, you know, these things carry through. You can't have tunnel vision. You know, there's a lot of things out there, but you've got to have something to strive for all the time. You know, you get up every day, what am I going to do today to make myself a better person?
Right, because that's the benchmark, right? If I can just be better than I was yesterday, you know, I'm on the path to being a great person.
Yeah.
That's great, Jeff. Now, with that, I'm going to close and just say, as you said, we always close with once a bulldog, always a bulldog. Jeff Mueller, class of '79 for the Bulldog History Channel. Thanks for a great afternoon with Jeff Gemmer.
Thank you.